Today, I'm honored to sit down with my friend and digital media mentor, Shawn Walchef, the visionary behind Cali BBQ Media. Shawn embodies the philosophy, be the show, not the commercial, shaping not only his unique approach to storytelling, but also his powerful way of building community around food and media. Shawn and I recently presented together in Florida at the Catersource convention, and today we're excited to share insights from that experience. Join us as we dive into Shawn's journey with Cali BBQ, his passion for empowering others to share their story, and how shifting your mindset can transform your brand. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Duce Raymond Podcast. Today, I have a very good friend with me, Mr. Shawn Walchef. What's up, brother?
What's up? Duce Raymond, no prep.
No prep.
I don't want to do any prep.
You wouldn't let me.
You asked me to, I don't prep, no prep. We're going live.
No, we went to the Catersource convention, and that's why we're having this podcast to talk about. And we had this presentation and a bunch of a big conference, a lot of people, and Shawn would not let me prep at all. He's like, no, we know this. We're just going to get into it. So obviously no prep for this podcast either.
Well, I think, one of the things that we teach anybody that's watching this, and we talk to, the greatest creators and storytellers on earth. One of my favorite sayings is that you don't need to do the prep when you live it.
Right.
I've been preparing. You and I have been preparing for the microphone, for the video, and our goal is to add value to whoever finds this content, whoever's listening, whoever's watching.
Well, especially for the conference at Catersource, because it was called Be the Show, Not the Commercial. That was the name of our program there, and that is something you live every day, and we've been talking about it for years now. So why don't we get into your impressions of Catersource, having not been there before, and then we'll get into like the specific content of our presentation.
Sure. I mean, Catersource is something that you've posted about. I mean, this is the craziest thing for me is how do you find out about new things that you should be learning, new things that are going to move your business forward? Well, I use my iPhone and I'm on apps like Facebook and Instagram and email, and I listen to podcasts and I watch YouTube videos, and I'm on LinkedIn. So it's like, for me, when you decide to tell your story about why is Duce Raymond going to Catersource to not only present, but to learn, it registers in my mind of, well, I need catering for my restaurant. Like, I want to grow catering sales at our barbecue restaurants in San Diego.
Right.
So what can I do to get myself to that conference so that I can learn, so that I can ask questions from companies that have 10x, 100x the revenue that we have at our restaurant? I don't want to make the same mistakes. And if there's information that's there, why not get there? And why not learn from people like you and people that were presenting, hey, this is what we did for our restaurant business or our cater. Maybe they don't even own a restaurant and they're just a catering company. Well, what can a restaurant learn from that?
Right.
Well, you establish these relationships with wedding venues, establish relationships with businesses that do repeat catering. Like, those are things that we don't think about as restaurant owners, because every single day our restaurant's open.
Right. And, to be honest, when we first started going to Catersource in 2012, it really opened our eyes to a lot of ways that specifically catering can make you more money, and things, how you should charge for certain services. And there's so many little tips and tricks you can learn at a conference like that from, like you said, caterers that have been doing this for a long time. Their, sales are a lot higher than typical catering companies are. And there's a reason they're successful, and there's a reason that they're presenting. What did you learn about the largest catering company in Chicago?
I mean, $1 million a week is pretty impressive to me. If you do $1 million a week in sales, 52 million over the year, I'm impressed, and like, not only is that impressive from a catering standpoint or a food, like, that's just an impressive business.
Right.
They have systems and processes and procedures in place to generate those types of sales, to sustain those types of sales, because, catering is a cyclical business. It's up and down, and like, yes, you get the client one time for a wedding, but that client hopefully doesn't have to get married again, right?
Right.
So how do you get more sales, and how do you grow a catering business? Because you can't just depend on weddings because, like I said, that's not a repeat customer. When you have a corporate client, somebody that's ordering for a quarterly event or a monthly event, it's much more sustainable. But, a company that's doing $52 million a year, I'm taking out pen and paper and writing down everything that they say.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive. So I was impressed with you at the conference because you came guns blazing with your whole team, set up right in the middle of all the action.
What were you expecting of me to do?
I don't know, but that was awesome. Well, I came into the first day of the conference, and Shawn was there at 8 a.m. with his full film crew, 3 guys. They had cameras, lights, camera, action. And they performed 3 live podcasts back to back to back.
Yep.
And Shawn standing at a high boy, and very impressed by his work ethic and just his stamina just to keep it rolling. And it was good. It was really good. And then we went into our presentation after that. So let's talk about that a little bit. Our presentation was Be the Show, not the commercial. And we presented to a bunch of caterers that really a lot of them don't have social first mindset. So let's talk about why, we thought that was a good presentation to give to these catering companies and kind of what the premise of Be the Show, not the commercial was.
Well, high level, I'll share a story. Always we learn through lessons and stories, and I will share that I have a young boy. His name's Colleen. He's 7 years old, and I've got a daughter, Mila, and she's 5. And I remember when Colleen was really small, the first time, there's always this hesitation as a new dad to when do you bring technology into your life, and when do you let your child actually watch a video. But I remember, I don't know, he was 2 years old maybe. He could barely speak, but like 2 years old, and was like, yeah, you can watch a YouTube video on your phone, on my phone. So I gave him the phone, and he was watching a YouTube Kid cartoon, and, small, little, tiny boy interacting with daddy's phone, looking at it, watching a YouTube Kids video. And as he's watching the video, he's engaged. But then there comes an ad for another toy, which was a cartoon. And the first button that I watched my son hit was skip. Like,
get it out of my way.
He intuitively knew as a child that he didn't want his story interrupted. He didn't want his content interrupted. And that's the premise of thinking of me as a human. I remember the first time a DVR came out where I could record a show and then go back and fast forward through the commercials and just watch the content.
Right.
Like, humans don't want to be advertised to.
Right.
But we want to be educated and we want to be entertained.
I remember that when smartphones were, just becoming popular, it was right around that DVR time. And then some stuff you could fast forward and some stuff you couldn't. So when a commercial came that you couldn't fast forward, you immediately picked up your phone and watched what you wanted to watch on your phone until the commercial was over, and then you went back to your show. And that's what you're trying to say is people want the show. They do not want the commercial. So that's why we talked about Be the Show, not the commercial.
That's it. People want to be educated. They want to be entertained, or they want to be inspired. And the premise of Being the Show is being real, being authentic, being who you are. I mean, no one goes to social media to be advertised to. Are we advertised to? And let me be clear. I am not against advertising. But there is a very small percentage of really good advertising that does a great job of telling a story that gets you entertained or educated or inspired to actually buy a product. But most of the sales stuff that we see on the internet and in real life is sale, 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 sale.
What are they doing here?
They're selling, Mortimer.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Like, if you go to, a bazaar or a market where there's people selling things. I mean, National Restaurant Show. I'm going to be at the National Restaurant Show, and there are lots of salespeople that will be on the floor, and instead of engaging and telling the story about, the products or the services or the pain points that they're suffering, they're just trying to sell you something like you feel like you're in a used car. And that's a terrible sales
Right.
Like, be a magnet with a story. Tell me a story about why are all the most successful restaurants. I'm looking around and I see all of these successful restaurants at the Toast booth. Well, what are they doing at the Toast booth? Now I'm engaged. Now I want to go there. And that's just the premise for everything that we do. It's be the show, not the commercial. Create content that is different. And the way that you're different is that you're unique. I mean, the show that you do, Barbecue Like a Boss, that's something that you developed a show mentality versus a scattered approach of posting a bunch of different stuff on the internet. You came up and your team, you and Matt, and now it's a much bigger team, but you have Barbecue Like a Boss. Now you have this podcast. These are multiple shows that you produce that allow you to create long form content, short form content, clipping up a video from here so that we can post it on LinkedIn and I can share it on my LinkedIn feed for people that don't know who Duce Raymond is, that don't know, Duce is Wild, that don't know about Barbecue Like a Boss. These are all opportunities. I mean, how many people I know in Chicago now that I can just send to you for their catering needs? I mean, I have all these catering companies. I mean, all these tech companies that are going to be in Chicago, and they should be catering with you.
Absolutely.
Why? Because we're doing show content together.
Yeah. I think that some of that gets lost in translation when restaurants or catering companies think about posting on social media and they want to see a return. Is it worth it? How do I know if it's working? And people have a misconception of how long it takes for it actually to work and for you to see results. And they also have a misconception of what those results should be. And it's not always, I make a post and this many dollars come into my restaurant. It's more about the long game. Can you talk about the ROI and the long game of the ROI?
Absolutely. I just did a video for YouTube right before this call about having a media company for 5 years and not generating any revenue and not quitting. I mean, we started our podcast Behind the Smoke in 2017. I invested my money, restaurant money, my time, my effort, doing a weekly show, Behind the Smoke, that eventually turned into digital hospitality, knowing that there were other people on the internet, that if I got better as a storyteller, I would connect to other humans that I respect and admire. I would get opportunities to do really cool stuff, and we could actually build a better business. So I built a media company on top of my restaurant. And now this year, we're going to do over 7 figures in revenue from brand deals and sponsorships and client work, all from digital story, all from the things that I learned from the 5 years where I didn't make money. Now we're going to add 7 figures of revenue to my overall company profile.
Right.
And that's really exciting for me because not only are we going to add 7 figures of revenue, is I know now how to make revenue so I can see 8 figures. I couldn't see 8 figures as a restaurant owner unless I'm opening up more restaurants.
Right.
I can do what I'm doing now and get to 8 figures in revenue. That's crazy to think about. I had Shaquille O'Neal, Hall of Famer, on my show, literally sitting down in Las Vegas at his Big Chicken conference. They're paying me and my media team to go and cover the conference. And I'm sitting down with Shaquille O'Neal, having a conversation with him while my son and my daughter are in the back with my wife. And during this interview, Dana White, who's a keynote speaker at the conference, walks into my interview with Shaquille O'Neal. If you told me that in 2017, I'd say, Duce, you're nuts. That's not going to happen. But Dana White walked into the interview that I was getting paid to do with Shaquille O'Neal. I would pay.
Yeah.
I had the money. I would pay 6 figures. I would pay $100,000 for the opportunity to interview Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
But you don't get that unless you're willing to do the work. You've got to do the work ahead of time so that people know you, they respect you, they believe in you, they trust you, so that they'll actually put me in front of Shaquille O'Neal to tell the Big Chicken brand story.
Yeah, that's an amazing example of the ROI paying off and how long it takes.
It's the long game.
It is the long game. And just to say, Shaq is amazing. He's a true one of one, and one of the most, he's so charismatic. He's got a great business sense. He's, you know, an amazing basketball player, obviously. You know, what a great opportunity to be able to get to interview him. And I'm so happy for you to have that opportunity, for sure.
It was amazing. And like, you know, watching you and what you've done with the podcast. And I mean, you're the work that you've done in the barbecue space ahead of you, like before you started telling stories digitally online, was already unprecedented. You had so many connections of people that knew who you are, knew who your family was, knew the work that you guys did at professional barbecue contests. But now you have the ability to have someone like Malcolm Reed onto your show and have a deeper conversation that his audience, your audience, which is just, it's like, we don't need to make YouTube. It's there.
Right.
It's crazy. But you got to be willing to do the work to get better at YouTube. You got to get better at Instagram. You have to get better at LinkedIn. You got to get better at creating an article from this long form conversation, because people learn in different ways, and where they see you and how they see you, all of those things, it's all compounding.
Another thing we talked about at the conference, and that I'm really starting to take more to heart, and it's kind of hard to digest, is you always have to be thinking that you're creating content for a new viewer. You know, a lot of people get caught up in like, oh, I'm putting out the same content, or they're just scared to say, oh, I put out a trimming brisket video, I can't do that again, you know. But actually, there's so many new people, and your content gets pushed out to non-followers more than followers, especially on the new algorithm stuff. The TikTokification has changed the way people see content, and a lot of time you're in front of people that don't know who you are, which is great, actually, because you want to reach new people. But people are scared to put out, you know, content they've already talked about. And that's something I'm trying to get more comfortable with, is telling the same story. I've showed how to trim and cook a brisket 20 different ways, and I know now that I'm going to have to show it 20 more different ways, you know, because that's what people want to see.
It's play the hits. If you're a creator, if you're a music, like whatever you do, if it resonates with an audience, our natural state as a human is to not want to repeat ourselves, because we don't want to sound crazy.
Right.
Every time you tell the story, you should be getting better at telling the story.
Right.
You know, one of the examples I use all the time is I study comedians like Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock and Kevin Hart, and understanding these comedians, before they go on Netflix, they have told that joke hundreds, thousands of times, maybe tens of thousands of times, that same joke where they changed one word, they changed an inflection point, they paused, they changed how they were standing on the stage. But they do that over and over and over again, and they learn until they get to the next Netflix special, and the act is so tight that you're like, oh my God, I have to share this with somebody else. You have to go see their new Netflix. That's such a great
example. And I heard that specifically about like Joe Rogan's last Netflix special, and them talking about how many times he's giving, though, like he went up there and just talked for an hour and a half with no notes, just straight up telling those jokes exactly how he wanted to tell them based on the reactions that he got doing it the previous 1,000 times. And it just came off like he was a complete pro, which he is, but it was amazing to watch, and kind of knowing that background of it, how much work and how much effort went into him getting to that point, you know?
I mean, that goes, you know, the formula that we shared on stage, which is, how do you create quality content? Like, how do you prepare for a podcast? How do you prepare for a video? And for me, the answer is quantity plus speed plus consistency will eventually equal quality. That quantity, speed, and consistency. And the problem is, we all want quality first.
Right.
We want the best video. We want the Netflix version of our speech, our TED Talk, our video to be perfect. And it just doesn't happen like that.
Right.
You got to put out a quantity at speed with consistency before you can sit in front of Shaquille O'Neal and not shit your pants. I mean, that's the truth. Sure.
I keep on thinking about, how many times do you think Uncle Dave has told the Sweet Baby Ray story? How he got started and how his business evolved and everything. I mean, just, you know, thousands of times. And it got to a point where he would tell it in kind of like, he said it so many times, he was disinterested saying it.
Yep.
But in the last 5 years, I've noticed where he kind of slows down and says it more like a story that someone hasn't heard before. And I don't think anything has prompted him to do that. He just probably realized he was sounding like, I'm bored of the story. I've told it so many times. But I've noticed recently that he starts telling it like more like a story and more like someone hasn't heard it before.
I think that's one of the most important things. And I learned that, helping my grandfather write his story. We self-published his book, The Harvest, out of a Bulgarian farm boy, became wealthy in La Jolla, California. And I remember going to writers' conferences, interviewing people and interviewing him. And the more that you tell your story and the deeper work that you do about, well, what day of the week was it? What was going on? What was happening historically during that day that you got that devastating news? What did it smell like? And what did it look like? And you bring somebody into that story, that's everything. The more that Dave does that, the more that he does that work, the better the story gets. Like, how does a story become like
over time?
It's so good that somebody else shares that story.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a game of telephone. It's like, dude, I heard you tell this story on stage about this orange tree in front of your restaurant. And I tell that orange tree story to remind myself that I have to tell the orange tree story more. You have every single person that's listening to this has some version of their origin story.
Right.
Has something that they can work on that somebody goes, wow, that's a great story. Well, don't stop telling it. Tell it more.
Right. I mean, that's something interesting that I've started telling my story a little bit differently recently, because a lot of times people want to see me and Dave. So Dave tells his story, and his story is more, from very humble beginnings. They grew up on welfare on the west side of Chicago, and not from nothing. They had, a single mother. They moved around a lot, and it was a very challenging time for them growing up. But they didn't really know any different. And my story is not that. I grew up in the suburbs of Wisconsin and, very upper middle class upbringing. And so when I got into business, my back wasn't against the wall like they were. Every single, time they turned around, they needed to perform to do well. And when we got into business, David just sold Sweet Baby Ray's to Ken's, so it wasn't like that for us.
Yep.
And I didn't learn, though, until we grew, we expanded, we bought Meeting House, the event planning company, and then things weren't going well. We had a falling out with the people we purchased from, and then our backs were against the wall. Dave's like, I'm not putting any more money into the business. Either we figure it out or, the business is going away. And it wasn't till then, till we really started to change things around. Also coincided with my sobriety, which had something to do with it too, I'm sure. And, it's not always what you have given to you, but it's what you have to learn from in business, and everybody has their own path. And I think that most businesses have to struggle before they succeed. And that was my case anyways, for sure.
That's why we do the work that we do, is that like the more that we ask questions and the better the questions are, the quicker we get to the truth. And the truth makes people stop. I mean, to be honest, like one of my favorite David Meltzer quotes is, the truth vibrates the fastest. When we hear the truth, we stop. Like, this is what I want when I go to a trade show, when I hear a speech, when I listen to a podcast. Stop bullshitting me and just fucking tell me the truth. Like, where was the shitty part? Because we all experience shitty parts. Yes, we see, you're successful and you have 100 restaurants and you're profitable and you're about to go public. Like, that's fucking great. But tell me about like when your business partner tried to screw you over. And what did you learn from that? Because obviously now you have all these other business partners. And like, those are the stories that I chase on a daily basis, because when somebody tells it to me, it reminds me of all the shit that I went through. It's like when I was in college, I remember I thought I was going to change my major to be a business major. And I took a couple business classes and I was bored out of my mind. I could not believe that, like, how is this the business curriculum? And then I remember they brought in an entrepreneur to come and speak to the hall, hundreds of people. And he started telling his story about all of the shit he went through, about the marketing, about the branding, about the investors. And I'm sitting there taking all these notes. I'm like, this is what I want. I need more of this.
Right.
And I mean, to be honest with you, that's why we do the work that we do at Cali BBQ Media, is that we want to tell more of those stories. Like, it's not about me. It has nothing to do. Like, I'm just lucky to have all this technology to be able to sit down in front of people and, be willing to say, hey, are you willing to sit down and have a conversation about how did you do it? How did you fail? What did you learn?
How do you, this is kind of going off topic, how do you line up all your interviews for your podcast? Because you interview so many different types of people throughout the hospitality industry, tech people, catering people, product people. I mean, it's the list is really endless.
We have a lot. We do a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
The easy answer is I chase my curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an outbound motion where if I see someone or if I'm inspired by someone, I put them on my big list of, like, let's figure out what we have to do. Do we have to send a DM, send an email, contact a PR agent? Like, we have to do whatever. I want to have Martha Stewart on the show. She is like the essence of restaurant influencers. I mean, I just watched her Netflix. I mean, what she's been able to do in her career. She is the original influencer.
Yeah,
so
that's
part
amazing.
of what I do is figuring out who do I know that can get me to the right PR person to get her to be on the show. Who can I get to get Mark Wahlberg, who has Wahlburgers and he just opened up Fletcher Cantina. I want to have Marky Mark on the show. Like, how cool would that be?
Mm-hmm.
I also have PR firms that know that we have a show on Entrepreneur. So they reach out. Like, every single day I'm getting pitched about somebody either I know about or maybe I have no idea, a restaurant group in the Midwest that has, 250 locations.
You never even heard of them before.
Never even heard of them.
Yep.
Then I learn about them, and then I see all this work that they're doing on YouTube and all this work that they're doing with hotels and stadiums and how they're incorporating their F&B. And I'm like, I definitely want them on. So I set up the interview that way. So it's always chasing my curiosity. Like, if I'm bored by the person, I'm not going to have them on the show because my audience will be bored.
Right. Do you ever find that you interview someone like you didn't know, and then it turns out to be one of the best interviews you've had?
All the time.
It's so interesting to me because we're starting season 2 of the podcast, so we're reaching out to people, and I'm having Oliver help us. And so the first season, I reached out to all my people, so I knew who I was talking to. I was excited to talk to them all, and I knew kind of how the conversation was going to go. So he's been reaching out to some people, and they're a little bit different, and I wasn't sure, but we just had the first one. Some guy I never met, and Big Sweet Barbecue out of Arizona. He's from Sweden originally, and he's got his own product line, but really he's just more of a backyard guy that wants to show his passion online, and he's got some followers, and he puts out content, but it was very interesting and an inspiring story about how, he's putting out the content that he likes, and he's not, and he's doing everything himself from the editing. So it was just interesting to talk to somebody I hadn't seen him before or anything, but he still had something positive to give.
I think that's one of the magic things about doing interview format shows is that, if somebody's listening to this and you're thinking about starting a podcast, like, it forces you, no matter what, the show goes on. So I have to have content. I have to have people that I'm interested in, and I've got to book up the calendar. So that allows me to do an outbound motion where I'm meeting new people that I would never talk to. Like, if I didn't have the show, there'd be no reason for me to talk to this person. But when I have them on the show and I do deep research on who they are, what they do, and I ask good questions, and they're impressed with who I am and what we've done, and we collaborate on the show, these become lifelong friends.
Right.
And potential business partners.
Yeah. That's a huge part of the podcast for me, is the relationship building and talking to people more deeply that you wouldn't necessarily have more of those deep conversations. So I'm looking forward to continue, inspired by you, of course. So tell me a little bit about NRA this year, what Cali BBQ Media is going to be doing down at the NRA, and are we going to be able to get to see each other while you're in Chicago, or are you going to be too busy?
I will always make time for Duce. No, we are so excited this year. We have Informa. We have a formal partnership with them, and we're going to be setting
Beautiful.
up. The big idea is always a rising tide lifts all ships. And as a new media creator, as someone that podcasts and create TikTok content, YouTube content, LinkedIn content, like all the platforms, we're telling stories on all the platforms, but we believe in other storytellers. So it's like, I have a network, including you, Duce, of at least 20 people that I know, admire, respect, that produce a weekly podcast specific to restaurants, hospitality, technology creators, that this show is a great show for them. So my goal this year is to use not just my network, but other people, Informa included, Nation's Restaurant News included, other creators, to come and use this podcast space basically as a Radio Row. Super Bowl has always done it the best. If you go to Super Bowl, if you know the story of Super Bowl back in 1992, Mad Dog was a local radio. They wanted to bring their radio station out to Minnesota. They went out to Minnesota. NFL wouldn't grant them rights because they would charge them $25,000 for broadcasting. And they're like, we're not going to do that. So they set up a broadcast at the hotel across the street from where the Super Bowl was hosted. That was the beginning of Radio Row. And they started broadcasting, telling stories about what was happening during Super Bowl week. And that turned into more stations. Like, oh, well, if they're doing it, maybe we should go. Then all of a sudden, eventually it was all 32 NFL teams. Now it's New Media Row, where there's podcasters and news stations and people from all over the world, journalists from all over the world, creators from all over the world. But there's no reason why that doesn't happen in Chicago at the National Restaurant Show. Every TikToker that creates content, food content, restaurant content, should be at the Chicago show. Every YouTuber that has a YouTube-specific, business-oriented, restaurant-oriented YouTube channel should be at the show. Every podcaster, every person that does Instagram content, all of these, the food, Bill Oakley's of the world. Bill Oakley is a former Simpsons writer that now is a food blogger. Like, he is a food influencer. He and I did a walk and talk restaurant influencer interview on the floor at Chicago last year, and now he's become a close friend. He's going to be at the show again. So anybody that's listening to this, send me a message, but I'll have a discount code. I don't have it yet, but I'll have a discount code for tickets for people to go and sign up. And we're going to make
I'm going to hit you up for the discount too.
I got you. I know a guy.
That's awesome.
I know a guy.
Give me a hot take of what not influencers, but creators should be thinking about in 2025. If they're thinking about making more content on Instagram, on TikTok, for LinkedIn, what should people be focused on? Is it still short form? What's your hot take? 5 things that people should be focused on for social creation in 2025.
I mean, the hot take is that people should be investing in YouTube, which is crazy to even think that that's a hot take, because YouTube is the OG of social media. But I think because short form has become so prevalent and people are so focused on Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels and TikTok and even YouTube Shorts, that we've kind of ignored the fact that YouTube is the number 1 TV channel in the world. It's the number 1 TV channel in the world. I mean, think about how many people are on YouTube globally. But you have to have a YouTube first mentality, which is why, we've hired YouTube producers specifically for Cali BBQ Media. And that's why I'm doing a lot of YouTube first content, because it allows you to think differently too. When you're in a short form content creation mode, you're not really, how much value can you add in 15 seconds? Yeah. You're chasing viral, right?
Right.
And I think for me, I'm a huge fan of Alex Hermosi. He creates business owner content, acquisition.com. He's written 2 phenomenal books, $100 million leads. This is one of the Alex Hermosi books. His podcast is one of my top favorite podcasts. But he talks a lot about...
Both those books are on my nightstand, by the way.
It's phenomenal.
Just saying.
Absolutely phenomenal. But he talks a lot about going wide. So he started doing lifestyle content and food content and started noticing his YouTube channel starting to get a lot more views, but they were the wrong views. They weren't business owners. He's like, we're going back to basics. Like, I want business owners, even if it means less views. Those are the people that I want, because those are the people that might eventually become clients at acquisition.com. Those are the people that might do consulting. These are the people, and these are the things that I care the most about. And I think that's a really slippery slope when you're talking about TikTok and Instagram and even YouTube, is like, who do you want to connect with? And for me, I'm a micro influencer. I don't have you have, your numbers are way better than mine, but I care about the business owners and the brands that actually own businesses. Like, I care about the restaurant owner that's on Aloha that is thinking about switching to Toast. Why? Because Toast pays me money to be a creator. They sponsor my shows. And if they have 100 restaurants and they're on an outdated legacy point of sale system, I want them to learn about why is Toast the best partner for them and their technology moving forward. So if I can connect with 100 people like that versus 100,000 that don't own a restaurant, for me, I'll take the 100 people all day.
Very cool. Yeah, I think about that a lot. And we went back and forth with producing some more long form videos and really telling the story. My favorite one was when we cooked my dad's recipe for the baby back ribs on the Weber grill, and we did a long form proper YouTube video like that. But it does allow you to think differently, really be able to tell a story and get all the information and education to the people
I'll
that
share
are interested.
Something real quick that Jesse Stein, he was a guest. We do a Rising Tides live show every Wednesday and Friday that anybody that's listening to this, you're welcome to join as a guest. So we bring up the audience. But Jesse Stein, he's building an AI tool, but he shared something about don't make how to, make how I.
Yeah.
No one wants to hear how to do something. Don't tell me how to do something, but tell me how you did it.
Right.
This is how I did it. Whether you want to do it that way or not, hey, I'm Duce. I've won all these championships. I run these restaurants. I run this catering company. We started Sweet Baby Ray's. This is my family recipe, but this is how I do it.
Right. And that was the biggest takeaway from Mike Mills. Do you remember Mike Mills?
I do. I love Mike. 17th. It was he's, rest his soul, amazing man.
Yeah. Truly, truly amazing. But that's what he always said. And now he wasn't producing content, but he would do classes and he would always say, this is how I do it. You might have to find your own way, but this is what works for me.
I love it.
And I took a lot away from that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's true. It's honest, you know?
Yeah.
Anything else we got to talk about, Shawn?
I just hope that anybody that's listening to this, that you get inspired to use all the tools that are at your fingertips. I mean, there's never been a greater time to be a business owner. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but we've never had more access. You know, Duce, you host a show. Like, if somebody sends you a message on Instagram, if somebody sends you a message on LinkedIn and they're a business owner asking a question, like, I know you. I know that you'll get on a call with them.
Get them all the time. Somebody DM'd me today. He's like, what is a interesting garnish I can put on my ribs? I had no idea who the guy was. And I'm like, well, is it, what's the concept? Is it on a plate? Is it single bone cut? Is it a whole slab? Like, I have to get on a call with this guy because I want to help him, you know? And that's the thing is, when I see those messages, it's actually very flattering to me because they're looking at me as an expert, as someone that knows, as someone that can help them. And I want to help, you know, that's the greatest thing about the internet, is being able to be connected with people that you wouldn't normally have access to. And, you know, I get excited when I see those type of messages. I want to help those people.
100%. So if you guys are listening to this, reach out. If you want to start a podcast, if you want to start a show, Duce is available. I am available. We live and breathe this stuff, and we're lucky that, you know, companies like Informa ask us to speak at Catersource and National Restaurant Show, and we go all over and we work with some great brands, but we don't, you know, we're going to tell you honestly, like, I don't have all the answers. I wish I knew how to build a media company, and I'm learning along the way, but we're building in public. Like, it says Cali BBQ Media. People still laugh at my hat, but like a lot less people. I had Shaquille O'Neal wore my hat.
Yes, I saw
Literally,
that. That's amazing.
You can put B-roll in the short clips that go after. You can put Shaquille O'Neal wearing the Cali BBQ Media hat as he's leaving his big chicken conference. And I mean, if that isn't ROI, return on investment, I don't know what is.
Yeah. No, so cool. Well, we're in the process of building out the very first Duce's Wild restaurant. So we're going to capture a lot of that story along the way. Yeah, we're super excited about it, and we're going through the right channels. We talked to your buddy Jeff Fenster about his WeBuild product, and I'm excited about going about it the right way and using people in our network that have done projects like this before. And I don't have to be the expert on every single thing. No, and that's the other thing I think really people have to realize is, do what you do best, and then lean on people that can help you with the rest,
100%.
So, Shawn, I'm going to lean on you for more media business stuff.
More media. Let's go. Let's keep scaling.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Shawn. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.